All right. Well, most of you, or a lot of you, remember me from being here over the years, and today we have a one of the beauties of being online is that we can have different musicians from all over the world. Len's eating dinner in London. And John Stowell is with me today. We've been jamming here in the basement, and it's been really fun to reconnect. We did some things in the over the last 20 years here and there. He's from Portland and is constantly in motion, traveling around the world. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy hearing him today. Um, should we get going? Do you think, or do you want to wait for a minute? Are we waiting for anybody, Steven or
Just
Brad?
wanted to say to everybody else now, while the concert's on, please mute yourselves because I don't want to record you. We don't want to record you either.
Hi, Cheryl.
So if you're in the session, everyone just mute yourselves, including this one, including us.
Awesome. Okay, so
say hello to.
yeah. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to John, and so anyway, I wish that we were in Tawasin with all of you, but this is better than not seeing you. So anyway, here's John Stowell.
Hey everybody, great to be with you all. And Rob and I go back to the early 1990s, and we haven't seen each other in many years, so it's great to be here with him, sharing things with you. So if you have any comments or questions while we're playing, I hope you'll log on. We would love to respond. I emailed Rob about 70 pages of PDF material, some articles I've written, and some original charts. So if any of you would like that, I'm sure Rob would be happy to forward it to you. I'm happy to hear from any of you if you have questions while we're here today or afterwards if you'd like to follow up. And so I think the plan is for us to play a little bit for you and then maybe take the second half of our 2 hours together and talk a little bit about theory and harmony if you're interested. So we're happy to have input from you in terms of what you might like to hear us discuss. And we can also be talking while we're playing between tunes if you have comments or questions. So we thought it might be fun to play some songs where we're not referencing the melody until the very end of the tune. This is something that Jim Hall and Bill Evans like to do very often. So this will be a little quiz. See if you can figure out what the tune is before we get to the end of it. And we might reference just a very little bit of the melody at the end. So this is a way to help internalize the form. If you're listening to a familiar song, try to hear the melody as the solos are unfolding. So in this case, you're not going to have a melody as a reference in the beginning, or we're going to start with an improvisation. And so this will be a little ear training test for you guys. What should we do for them? We're conferring about which one to do. Okay. So here's something that we're going to play in an unfamiliar meter, but it's a song that probably many of you know that pops up very often at jam sessions. And I think part of the repertoire that you can be thinking about learning are songs that will come up at a session. These are not necessarily songs that you'd want to record or play at one of your own concerts, but it's nice to have a repertoire of maybe 15 or 20 standards that would allow you to sit in anywhere in the world. And this is one of those tunes. But you're not going to hear the melody till the very end, and it will only be a portion of the melody, probably the last day. And we're going to play it in an unfamiliar meter for you. So good luck. Here's our first tune. So Jim Hall and Pat Metheny did this tune this way. This is All the Things You Are from Jerome Kern, but we played it as a waltz. And it might have sounded a little bit obscure because we're playing over the bar quite a bit, but we were in 3/4. Mm-hmm. And is it okay to change the meter or change the key or change the feel? Of course. We're jazz musicians. We can do whatever we like.
What is this thing? Yeah,
okay, so we're going to tell you what we're playing this time, but we'll begin with an improvisation on this one too, guys. And this is another one that would be one that you should have in your repertoire if you don't already, because it pops up very often at jam sessions. What is this thing called love? Sound familiar? By the way, if you know a song that's being played, I would encourage you to be an active listener, meaning keep track of the form, maybe even singing the melody to yourself as a way to internalize form, occasionally referencing the melody in your solo. So the melody is an important component of the tune that should always be present even when you're improvising, yes? You also understand, I hope, that some of the harmony you encounter in one standard will very often pop up hundreds or maybe even thousands of times. So simplest example, 2-5-1. In the case of this tune, we're really starting on a resolution to a 4 minor and then resolving back to a 1 major. Are there other tunes that do this? Absolutely. So, you know, the men who wrote these standards were good composers, but because they had deadlines, they were popular, they had to crank out these tunes for shows and movies, they used formulas. And yet they created all these beautiful variations with melodies and small variations on the harmony to make them interesting and fun to play. So part of your repertoire absolutely can be these older standards, and I'd recommend them. They're probably, again, 20 or 30 that pop up over and over again. And certainly All the Things You Are and What Is This Thing Called Love fall into that category. And the beauty of this is also we can always find fresh ways to try to interpret these tunes. Playing them in multiple keys, for example, or trying different meters or different tempos. So we'll do this kind of as a bright 4/4. If you know the tune, follow along with us, okay? Again, we'll start with an improvisation on What Is This Thing Called Love, and Rob will reference a bit of the melody at the end of the tune. Here we go. Tempo, Maestro. Where are you? You got it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. More music, perhaps.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just carry on.
You
Should
want
we
to
do
do
this?
everybody's song?
So I'm sure some of you know and like, or maybe
Yeah.
all of you know and like Kenny Wheeler. Do you like his music?
Yeah, so there, that's
Len, I know, is kind of an
Yeah.
authority on Kenny. I only had the pleasure of playing with Kenny once at Banff, but I know and like his music. And I know some people who knew and played with Kenny. Actually, I met a guitarist named Jay Reed, who you may not know, but he's originally from a town where Kenny was from and knew some of Kenny's family. And the one time I met Kenny, he was so self-effacing and humble and really a very sweet gentleman. And I love his music. And he was sort of shy about playing so-called bebop. He said, I don't really play bebop. And everybody said, Kenny, you sound so great playing anything. So this has a little intro, and then you'll hear the melody after 8 bars, and we'll do our best on this one. You know, everybody's song but my own from Kenny Wheeler. So should we do the intro then?
yeah. This one we have to yeah.
So 8 bars up front with the intro, huh? 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. But this song we're going to play for you is written by a well-known Brazilian guitarist, vocalist, composer who came up at the same time as Tom Jobim in the late 50s, early 1960s. And this is a song probably that many of you have also already played in your repertoire and would play at a jam session. But we're going to disguise it a little bit. So we're going to reference the ability of the melody at the end only, and we're also going to play this in an unfamiliar meter. See if you can get it before we get to the end. So anyone figure that out before we got to the melody at the end?
Thank you.
Thank you, Len. Your applause is appreciated. There's a virtual tip jar in the universe somewhere. So here we go. Tell me the name of the tune again. Azimovs
Landing.
Azimovs Landing. Is this for Isaac?
Yes.
Okay, so he was a great science writer. I think even more like science as opposed to science fiction, because he was pulling lots of literate references to science into his writing as well. I saw him once at a lecture actually in Connecticut
Really?
in the early 70s.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
he was a very smart man. And, you know, science fiction really in a way is the smart science fiction writers are really kind of seeing the future, even though it feels like fiction.
Yeah.
A lot of it is based on science in his case. I think he was very literate and very smart. Okay, Asimov's Landing from Rob. Melody at the end. So slightly softer to make the level a bit better for them.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I'll try to do the same.
So,
You like that tune of Rob's? Fun, right? Kind of almost folkish, really. Again, I was to serve the tune. I think it probably sounds best not to play lots of. Thank you, Len. Not to play lots of complicated dissonant minor sounds on the tune because the melody's not about that. So again, think about the melody when you're soloing, guys. Try to use your improvisation to somehow serve the tune. A lot of folks say if there's a lyric to a song, they like to hear the lyric in their heads while they're soloing too. Maybe the lyric's telling a story that somehow influences your solo. I think what we want to try to avoid doing is just playing memorized licks when we improvise. I mean, we all learn licks, and portions of other people's solos to build vocabulary, but I think the goal when we're improvising is to deconstruct those memorized patterns and use those patterns as the raw material for the solo. So where do you come up with the melodies? That could be using the melody of itself as a starting point. That could be using what the other musicians are playing and reacting to that. You know, the guitar, my instrument, is a very pattern-oriented instrument initially when you're learning vocabulary. But I think my goal is to try to be in the moment as an improviser. So some of my very favorite players, like Jim Hall, are willing to play slowly and learn. Jim learned early on, I think. You talked about being influenced by people like Coleman Hawkins and Ben Webster, some of the great swing-era tenor players, to learn how to breathe and leave space on the guitar. And I think using space as a way to shape your phrases in a way that's creative. And I think also leaving that space allows for the conversation to unfold. You're allowing and encouraging the other musicians to be more active. That in turn gives you more to respond to from them. So in this case, when I'm playing with Rob, I want to use the information that he's giving to me as a bassist, rhythmically and harmonically, to shape what I'm playing. So a song that I'm playing with him that I've played maybe hundreds of times with other musicians should sound different than the way I'm playing it with anyone else. I want what I'm playing to be a reflection of my interaction and conversation with Rob.
So I was just thinking that. So did you guys play blues all day this morning? Probably. Yes? Kind of? All right. Because yeah, I was thinking we should probably play a blues for you too, because I know that's what you'll be doing a lot this week. So
Minor blues.
sure.
Don't play that as often.
Equinox. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna do a John Coltrane song called Equinox.
He wrote that in C sharp minor, by the way. Did you know
Yeah, is that where you want to do it?
We can do it in C sharp minor.
Okay. We're gonna do it in C sharp minor. So that reminds me of a joke actually. And
Walk into a bar.
yeah, no, it was an alto player wanted to sit in with the band, and the band leader said that this song is in D flat minor, and the alto player said, "Oh, where does that put my horn?" And the band leader said, "Back in its case."
All right.
Right. Len was the only one that was supposed to laugh at that. So, all right. So this is Equinox, a minor blues by John Coltrane.
Thanks. We could talk a little bit about some ways to reharmonize a simple 12-bar minor blues if you're interested after we play this. So a lot of folks play this in C minor, obviously easier for some folks in a key with less accidentals. But actually, this is a nice key, especially specifically on guitar, because there's lots of open string voicing possibilities I can use. Any guitar players in our session today? Raise your hand if you play guitar. I'm not seeing any, but maybe there's at least. Okay, there we go. Okay. So Bill, listen to some of these voicings, and if you want, the handouts that the PDFs that I emailed to Rob, which he can email to you, have dozens, if not hundreds, of voicings. Some of which are open string voicings, meaning I'm using a combination of fretted notes and open strings. And this particular key of C sharp minor, the open E and B strings work for every one of those chords essentially. We can talk a little bit about. Bless you, somebody just sneezed. We can talk a little bit about some of these voicings. I know there are not a lot of guitarists in the session, so we won't dwell on that, but I might touch on a few of those voicings for Bill's benefit if you all don't mind after we're done playing it. So it's pretty easy to keep track of a simple 12-bar minor blues, yes? But what jazz musicians started doing with the blues going back probably to the late 1920s, early 1930s is adding some additional harmonic information. The John Coltrane turnaround for this tune is a 1 minor to a 4 minor, back to the 1 minor, then flat 6 dominant, 5-1. So it's pretty simple set of changes, probably less so than a blues using dominant chords, but we still have a lot of additional chords and harmonic information we can insert into that simple 12-bar form. So we'll play the tune. Maybe if you like, we can talk a little bit about some of this additional harmony after we're done. This tune has a little ostinato to a little repeated bass figure that's fun. That's part of the vibe of the tune, and Rob knows that. There it is right there. Okay, here we go. Equinox from John Coltrane. Blues in C sharp minor. And the one we're going to play is one that he wrote for a TV series called Peter Gunn. It was about a detective in the 60s. And I'm old enough to remember seeing that as a kid. And the tune is called Dreamsville. It's not one that you'd necessarily play at a jam session or expect even experienced players to know, but it's one that I happen to love. And I'm not sure if Rob and I have ever played this one together, but I love this tune. I've got a little arrangement of this I'll show you another time. We'll do it just as written. So this is a ballad, and it's a 32-bar song. It's a little bit like a standard in the sense that it's an AABA form. Do you aware of that form, guys? AABA. So these songs, and some of these songs, like All the Things You Are, this one, again, is not as commonly played, but it follows this form. The reason they used a formula is because these men had deadlines. They had to produce a certain amount of music for a television show, a film score, a Broadway musical, and they still managed to create all these beautiful melodies and variations using this form. So AABA is pretty typical. So you're going to hear a melody repeated, then a bridge, and then the A section again. So this is, again, a way to help internalize form. And you begin to feel 8-bar sections. A bridge, maybe that's 8 bars or 16, whatever it happens to be. Again, the melody can help you internalize form. So here is Dreamsville from Henry Mancini. Are we both on camera?
Yeah.
So ballad time, right? I really like a walking ballad. Is that okay, Rob? Boop. That's there. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys like that one? Henry Mancini wrote a lot of great music. Thank you, guys. So here is Alone Together. We might also put the melody at the end of this tune and start with an improvisation. If you know the tune, follow along, please. Get this out of the way. Looks a little better, maybe. There we go. Tempo, Maestro. Where do you like it?
Yeah.
We sure enjoyed playing for you and spending some time together. So again, please don't be intimidated by this music, guys. Enjoy it. Work on it together. You've got a great faculty there, and thanks to Rob and Brad and Stephen for including me today. It was a pleasure.
And thanks to you two for finding the time to get together and be here for us.
Oh yeah.
Rob
Yeah,
Kohler and John Stowell. Yeah.
thanks you guys.